There's no safety net that's underneath. I'm free, falling all in you. Far from men who would how they appear. Trapped up on a tightrope, now we're here. We're free, falling all in you. Every time I see you, baby, I get lost. If I'm dreaming, baby, please don't wake me up. Every night I'm with you, I fall more in love. Now I'm laying by your side. Everything feels right. And since you came along, I'm thinking, baby, you, yeah, are bringing out a different kind of me, yeah. There's no safety net that's underneath. I'm free, falling all in you. Fell from men who would how they appear. Trapped up on a tightrope, now we're here. We're free, falling all in.
Sih, doa bentar
All I
guys.
know is
Tadi kelupaan.
we could go anywhere, we could do anything.
Oops, oke. Postulated.
Whatever the mood we're in, yeah, all I know is getting lost late at night under stars, finding love standing right where we are. Your lips, they pull me in the moment. You and I alone, and people may be watching. I don't mind, 'cause anywhere with you feels right. Anywhere with you feels like Paris in the rain, Paris in the rain. We don't need a fancy town or bottles that we can't pronounce. 'Cause anywhere, babe, it's like Paris in the rain. When I'm with you, ooh, ooh, ooh. When I'm with you, ooh, ooh, ooh. Paris in the rain, Paris in the rain. I look at you now and I want this forever. I might not deserve it, but there's nothing better. Don't know how I ever did it all without you. My heart is about to jump out of my chest. Feelings they come and they go, that they do. Feelings they come and they go, not with you. Late nights and the street lights and the people look at me, girl, and the whole world could stop. Anywhere with you feels right. Anywhere with you feels like Paris in the rain, Paris in the rain. We don't need a fancy town or bottles that we can't pronounce.
Good morning, participant. Reminder to the participant to fill in the registration form, as the link has already been posted in the Zoom chat box. Or you can scan the barcode on your screen. Thank you for your attention.
Paris in the rain. Going all night with you. All I do is miss you. So come and take the moonlight underneath the moonlight. Days in Paris, nights in Paris. I need you with my eyes closed. Wonder where the time goes. Yeah, isn't it obvious? Isn't it so come and take the moonlight underneath the moonlight. Anywhere with you feels right. Anywhere with you feels like Paris in the rain, Paris in the rain. Walking down an empty street, puddles underneath our feet. Driving down the interstate, I've never felt so far away. Leaving hardly hurts at all. I'm sorry that I never called. Often I get exhausted, trying regardless to be enough.
Good morning, participant. Reminder to the participant to fill in the registration form, as the link has already been posted in the Zoom chat box, or you can scan the barcode on your screen. Thank you for your attention.
Despite every text of yours ignored, will you call me still just to hear my voice? I swear, always I'll care. Flipping through our photographs, those moments never seem to last. Listening to self-control, those feelings that you'll never know. Leave me, it's never easy. I've had a lifetime to be alone. If you let me, when it gets heavy, no, I'll never let you be all alone. I'll be better than I was before, despite every text of yours ignored. Will you call me still just to hear my voice? I swear, always, 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 I'll care.
Good morning, participant. Reminder to the participant to fill in the registration form, as the link has already been posted in the Zoom chat box, or you can scan the barcode on your screen. Thank you for your attention.
Just something about the way she moved. I can't figure it out. It's something about her. Say, ooh, it's something about kind of woman that wants you but don't need you. Hey, I can't figure it out. It's something about her. Cause she walk like a boss, talk like a boss, manicure and nails, just set the pedicure off. She's fly effortlessly, and she move like a boss, do what a boss do. She got me thinking about getting involved.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself, Angela, as the Master of Ceremony for today's webinar. It is my pleasure to welcome you here in this morning for Accounting Talk 2020. And before we get started, let us open this webinar with a prayer. And I will lead the prayer in the Christian way. So let us pray. Dear Jesus, Father in heaven, we thank you for the day you have given to us. And thank you for the chance to listen to this webinar that will be led by Mr. Alan, Dr. Albert, and Mr. Kristian. May you give them the strength and concentration in order to make this seminar to run smoothly. And please bless other committee that has put their hard work into making this seminar possible. May you give them the satisfaction through their hard work. Thank you, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen. Welcome once again in today's Accounting Talk, and thank you for joining us in today's webinar, where we are going to discuss about business strategy and outlook in the year of 2022. This is a very important issue that is becoming more and more critical every day. Before that, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. Please turn on your camera and turn off your microphone, but later on, you will have the opportunity to open your microphone in the Q&A session. But if you are shy and just want to ask a question to today's speaker, don't hesitate to type your question into the chat box. Now, without further ado, let's head on to the main agenda for the day. And in this webinar, we'll be guided by a great moderator, Mr. Alan Dharmasaputra, as the Vice Head of International Business Accounting Program in Petra Christian University. To Mr. Alan, the time is yours.
All right. Thank you, committee. So good morning. And I would like to extend as well the warmest greetings to all participants of this accounting talk webinar. Yeah, it is actually very exciting to meet a lot of individuals that has been showing an enormous hunger for knowledge, especially on the latest information regarding business strategy and outlook of 2022. Okay. For the records, this webinar is hosted by International Business Accounting Program of Petra Christian University. And I would like to also thank all the committees that have been working hard as part of this webinar. Okay. As all of us are aware of, for almost about 2 years past, we have been faced with pandemic, and thus business world also facing a major change. Many old businesses closed down, but also new businesses started as well. Therefore, in this webinar, we would like to know what does the experts think about the outlook of business, and the world will be shifting next year, and what will be the strategy for business, or basically the business tips and trick, I would say, in preparing for the Business World 2022. If you do have any questions related to this webinar, please save it, and at the end, there will be a Q&A session. So you can ask your question by then during the Q&A session, or maybe type your questions in the chat box later so I can guide the Q&A. With that being said, let me introduce you to not just one, but two professional speakers that will be giving their insight on how we as business person or maybe business student can face the upcoming year of 2022. Our first speaker will be Dr. Albert Valentine. He's a retired US government diplomat and commissioned field grade officer who's now working as a successful entrepreneur and also a professor at University of Guam in US. Dr. Albert has a lot of experience working as a coach, mentor, leaders, as well as a consultant. And for the past decades, he also served as US government regional advisor for 2 embassies, Thailand and Philippines, and also working with the 3rd embassies as a contracted US government civilian in Indonesia. Dr. Albert, thank you very much for joining us in this webinar. Now, as I said, not only one, but two. Our second speaker, you guys gonna love this. Our second speaker will be Kristian of Hansen, who is currently working as a content creator as well as a videographer. Right? So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also turn on the notification bell on YouTube at Kristian Hansen. Yeah. Right. Kristian is a former logistic manager for DSV Global Transport and Logistics, and he's been working in Denmark, US, and also Indonesia. However, now Kristian is working as a full-time YouTuber. It will be actually very interesting to hear Kristian's experience moving from a desk job, a 9-to-5 desk job, to become an entrepreneur, a content creator. And how does it relate to the upcoming business outlook of 2022? Mr. Kristian, thank you very much as well for joining us in this webinar. All right, so without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Dr. Albert Valentine, to share the presentation. Dr. Albert, the virtual floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Alan. Much appreciate the introduction there. And I'm excited to hear Kristian speak as well. So I think we need to get through my presentation to get to his. I'm very excited. So if I could, I'll share my screen with you, what I have ready to go. I would like to put a disclaimer out there. My presentation is more of a theoretical, from a theoretical perspective, like you'll be in class a little bit. But I'll mix it up, and I will tie in some current recent events to talk about strategy. It's very, very important to do that, because you have to understand strategy is very, very important to what you're going to do in the future. So that being said, let me start my presentation. If we're talking about strategy and we're talking about business strategy specifically, this is the guy you need to talk about. This is the guy you need to research, Michael Porter. The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. That's very important, to know what you're not going to do in strategy. Another quotation from Michael Porter: strategy is about setting yourself apart from the competition. What makes you different? It's not a matter of being better at what you do. It's a matter of being different at what you do. And Kristian definitely will talk about that in his presentation afterwards. So I am Dr. Al Valentine. I'm an assistant professor of management at the University of Guam. So actually not too far from Indonesia, but then again, we're far away from the United States. I'm physically calling in or zooming in from Bangkok, Thailand, where I've lived for the past 23 years. In my presentation, here's what I'll talk about. I'm going to talk about this thing called VMS, which is vision mission statement. If you don't have a vision, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to be disabled in your direction of where to go. A little bit about leadership. We'll dig in the strategy of what it is, some tools that you can work with, and then some wisdom from the elders. So, but let me start with organizations. And I know Joshua, he's an OD guy like I am. Him and I went to the same school here in Thailand, Assumption University, and we have our PhDs in something called organization development. So we're always hyper about what happens in organizations. Doesn't matter how big. All organizations have this. We have strategies. We have different components. We have different structures that are there. We have systems in place. We have processes. We have values. We have beliefs. We have culture. There's people. People have to lead. You have to have managers, middle managers. You have to have employees. So the workforce, very important. But what's even more important is having a purpose in life, having a purpose in the organization itself. That means you have to have a vision. You have to have a mission. You all need to understand what is a vision and a mission. We'll talk about that in my presentation. From there, you move into the operational aspects of what goes on inside an organization, the goals, the objectives, the tasks. All of this hopefully will lend itself to be effective and efficient in organizations. If you're a business student, if you've been through a business class, you have a business, you should probably be familiar with this thing called the business canvas model. This is what businesses do. What are your key resources? What's your value? What's your value proposition? What do you bring that other people don't bring to the table? But I want to focus on, very briefly, two things: vision and mission. So vision is the art of seeing what is invisible to others. Anyone know what this is? This is the North Star. The North Star. The North Star never moves. It's the one star in the sky that never moves. And Kristian is coming from logistics. You all live in a maritime environment. The maritime environment, back in the day, before technology, they would use the stars to navigate. And they would use the Polaris star, the North Star, for their navigation. In businesses and strategy, you have to have that North Star, which is what we call vision. So I want to dig a little bit into what vision is before we get to strategy. So what is a vision? Again, I take it from an academic perspective or a theoretical perspective, and later we'll talk about the practical side of it. But theoretically, a vision, it's a mental image of what the future will or could look like. It's your future state. And you need to know where you want to be in the future. What do you want to do in business? What do you want to do with your organization? How do you want to make money? You have to have a vision. Different things about the vision, right? Important, why have a vision? It provides that representation of where you want to be. It should be in the future. Look at that second bullet. It's the longer time span than a strategy. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Nowadays, people are saying move so quickly, maybe 3 years. It should reflect your values. What are your preferences? What excites you? Vision statements themselves. Here's what some people talk about, why have a vision statement? Well, it's the sense, it gives sense and meaning to who you are, develops your identity, and it gives purpose to the organization. So super important that you have this. Here's a quote. You may or may not really understand it, but if you take a screen capture of it, if you want to build a ship, don't gather the men to find the wood. Prepare the tools and divide up the work and delegate the tasks. Instead, teach the men looking for the endless wide ocean. What that means is find the vision and find the purpose to move forward. Now, how does it relate to strategy? You look at Bennis quoted, action without vision is stumbling in the dark. And a vision without action is poverty-stricken poetry. You're just talking. It's just talk. So vision comes first, then strategy. Mission statements. A mission statement is a strongly felt aim or calling. Basically, it's how will you make the vision come true? That's what supports the vision, is the mission. It encompasses things like your task and your purpose. Some confusion, even in academia, but also in the practitioner world, vision and mission. Don't get it wrong. You have to have a mission first, and then you have a mission to support the vision of where you want to go in the future. So the purpose of a mission statement, provide a focused, bias of, what you're doing, your allocated resources. A good mission statement motivates and inspires people. Could create balance among, these competing interests. We all have them in organizations. You have competition inside your organization all the time. Vision statements themselves, future direction. Where do you want to be? What is it we want to do with the business? Do you want to be a YouTuber? Do you want to work for a corporate entity? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Understand what your vision is. Present scope, what do I do today? Well, who are we? Ask these questions to yourself. Who are we? What do we do? Why do we exist? That's back to purpose. I put this in there, vision then mission. Don't get it wrong. It's not mission statement first, then vision. You have to have a vision of what you want to be in the future, and the mission supports the vision. Leadership. I'll give you my first axiom, Dr. Valentine's axioms. My first axiom is everything in life starts and ends with leadership. That means with you. You have to lead yourself. When you look in the mirror, what kind of person are you? What are your values? What are your beliefs? So that's axiom number one. When we're talking about strategic leadership, it is, and I'll read it because it's a quote right out of a book, right out of the textbook. The ability to anticipate and envision the future, maintain flexibility, think strategically, and initiate changes that will create a competitive advantage. That's what's important about strategy. Again, back to Porter. What separates you from the pack? What is that competitive advantage that you have? My second axiom. If you fail to communicate, you will fail at everything in life. You need to be a communicator, a master communicator. And Kristian will definitely talk about that today, because I know he's a great communicator. I know he's got I just heard how many followers he has, and I'm in awe of it. I can't wait. But so we're talking about strategic vision and strategic action. Well, you compare the two together, action and vision. What do you get? Well, if you have low action and low vision, you're uninvolved as a leader. If you have a lot of action and no vision, you're just a doer. You're working in the blind. A little bit of action, lots of vision, you're a dreamer. You may not get anything done. You put them together though, action and vision, and you execute. That's where you want to be. Very difficult, but that's where you want to be. You look at, pictorial representation. Okay, you see where strategy fits, but you see where vision and mission. So I thought it was very important that we talk about this, that we understand where vision fits. Leadership. How do you become a strategic leader? Anticipate those threats and opportunities, kind of like a fortune teller, looking into the future, prognosticating where we're going to be. Number two, challenge the status quo. Leadership is all about challenging the status quo. Thirdly, interpret the trends, the threats and opportunities. But again, looking into the future, where are we going to be? Where are we going to be? That's hard sometimes. And then achieving alignment. Leadership is all about achieving alignment. And even to yourself, being true to yourself, being in alignment with what your values and beliefs are. Very, very important. I'm not sure anybody in here reads Chinese. I don't. I read Thai, I read Laotian, but I don't read Chinese, but that's okay. This book is Sun Tzu, The Art of War, written 2,500 years ago. So now we're going to talk about strategy. Strategy without tactics. Sun Tzu says, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat, meaning you don't have a strategy, you're going to be defeated at some point. So strategy is very, very important. George Patton, I'll bring in, since I'm from the United States and I spent time in the US military, and a good tactics can save even the worst strategy. Bad tactics will destroy even the best strategy. You may or may not know it, but Sun Tzu was a warrior. And when we talk about strategy, a lot of it comes from the military sciences. So when we talk about strategy, usually we'll reference military strategists. That's why Sun Tzu and everyone else. But there's strategic levels of, warfare, and there's operational and tactical. So we're going to talk about strategy today, but we're going to talk about business strategy. Give me about a minute and 47 seconds to allow this gentleman, the smartest man on the planet, to talk about what strategy is in relation to business. Michael Porter.
If we're going to have a good strategy, we've got to think clearly about what strategy is. And we've got to separate strategy from the other kind of goals and objectives and issues that managers often think about. On this slide are really the big three mistakes in terms of defining strategy. Mistake number one, my strategy is to internationalize. I hear that kind of thing all the time. My strategy is to consolidate my industry. My strategy is to ramp up my R&D budget. My strategy is to outsource more of my production. Is that a strategy? No, those are steps that your organization may want to take. They may be good steps. They may be appropriate steps. They aren't a strategy. The strategy is what unique position will we be able to achieve? What's our advantage going to be at the end of the day as we take these steps cumulatively over time? That's the strategy part. The strategy part's about how are we going to be unique? How are we going to have an advantage? How are we going to sustain that advantage over time? The steps we take are not the strategy. But you'd be surprised how many companies get themselves fixated on a particular action that they want their organization to take, and that becomes the strategy. And of course, it then often drives the company literally off the cliff because they kind of don't understand why they're doing it and when they should stop doing it.
All right, so that's not strategy. What he's talking about, those are tactical decisions to be made, tactical decisions, so strategy. So we're kind of calibrating your brain on what strategy is. So strategy, and we're talking about definitions. Again, here's Michael Porter. It's a broad formula of how a business is going to compete. Business is about competition for resources, usually your money in business. Could be time, but usually it's about money. What policies are needed to carry out those goals? Strategic foresight, the ability to anticipate those future developments. Again, back to vision, thinking out in the future. And here's a really cool quote: strategy is about success. I mean, really, that's at the end of the day, right? But you have to define what success is. Everyone has a different definition of success. How does it all fit into this big stuff here? Well, I just talked about vision and mission. You see where strategy fits in. Got to have the vision first. You got to have a mission. Who are we? What do we do? And strategy. What's the game plan? How are we going to get this attractive position to people to come to our website, right? To go on Kristian's YouTube channel. He has a strategy, right? And he's making it become reality. Here's a model. They call it the EVR model: resources, environment, and value. Well, strategy fits in the middle of that. You have to understand that these are part and parcel of the bigger strategy, your strategy. When we get into the corporate world, oh, look at the levels here. You have a corporate strategy, you have a business strategy, so different divisions. You got a functional strategy below. You need to ask yourself, where do you fit into this? Do you understand the strategy? Because they're not the same. Each one has a different kind of strategy that goes up the chain to support the big corporate office. Here, I'm going to blow your mind with all these slides. Successful strategy. The big thing is implementation. That's usually where people fail, is in the implementation of the strategy. It's great on paper, but they fail in the implementation piece. Question: where are we at now? What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there? All good strategic questions you need to be asking yourself for the future of what you're going to do. When we're talking about strategy, the process, key issues, you have scope and there's tools. Scope. Is it industry-wide? Are you in the food and beverage industry? Are you in communications? Are you in manufacturing? You need to ask yourself that question. And then understand the tools that are available to you. We're going to talk about some tools today as I go through my presentation. There's a list of them there. Pestle, Porter's 5 Forces. Here's, I don't know if people know the Boston Consulting Group, you know, BCG, Boston Consulting Group. And sometimes people say, oh, the strategy I have doesn't work. Well, that might be what's called a dog. That's why we have a picture of a dog. And if the strategy doesn't work, you get rid of the dog. If the strategy is working well and you don't have to put much effort into it, it's a cow. We call it a cash cow. What do you do with cows? You milk the cow. You milk it for all the milk that it has. So if it's a strategy that's working well, stick with it. Don't let it go. Michael Porter, again, the smartest guy around on strategy, you know, you probably studied about differentiation, didn't you? Being the cost leader, having a niche market. That is important. Understand that there's programs and structure and staffing that comes into play. Now let's get to the tools. Let's get to tools about strategy. The tools that you have available are these that you see on the screen. The first one, everybody should know. I would assume everybody knows, right? The SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. It's an easy model to use. I gave an example here of the Boeing 787. So when Boeing, who's competing with Airbus, you know, that's their biggest competitor. What is their strategy? Well, they did the 787 and here's what they came up with. And they decided at the end of the day to produce the 787 to compete with the Airbus A380. I say this because one of my businesses is to fix these airplanes. I have a business that does aircraft maintenance. We fix Airbus and Boeing aircraft. So SWOT, you ask a bunch of questions. You know, what's the, you know, how are we placed? You know, do we have, what's our weaknesses, our opportunities? Next tool. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the blue ocean strategy. It's a really famous, I think, very easy tool to use. This came up after Michael Porter. So blue ocean strategy. You see it's in red and blue. Well, the red is, if you can imagine fish. When there's a lot of fish together, what do? They fight and they create a lot of blood. In this strategic model, you want to be in an open ocean. There's no competition. It's nice and blue. The water's crystal clear. You could swim and breathe and do what you do. So that's why they call it the blue ocean strategy. Here's a good example of blue ocean strategy. If anybody drinks wine, I love to drink red wine. I don't like to drink Yellowtail. Yellowtail is a very cheap wine made out of Australia. But if you look at wines, you got premium wines, you got budget wines, and then you have Yellowtail at the very bottom. So Yellowtail said, how do we strategically place ourselves? They did the blue ocean strategy. And what they did was they found a space where no other company was working. They said, what do we do best that no one's doing? We drink, our wine is easily drinkable. It's not a lot of foo-foo to it. It's easily selected, and then it's fun. And what they did was, after they did this blue ocean strategy, they saw sales go through the roof. It was a wonderful opportunity strategically for them to do it. Again, it's not the best wine in the world. I would never buy it. But if someone had it, I would drink it. But sales went through the roof once they did it. The next model is probably the hardest model. And Alan could probably back me up on it, and other folks that are familiar with this, with these 5 forces from this very smart guy. So Michael Porter wrote all these great books, and he's a Harvard professor, and you know, the chief strategist in an organization has to be the leader and CEO. But he wrote a seminal article in Harvard Business Review in 1979 that changed the business world's strategic thinking. And he wrote about these competitive forces. So we call them Porter's 5, or he calls them Porter's 5 forces. First force, you got the competitive rivalry. You have threats to new entry. You have buying power. You have supplier power, threat of substitution. One answer would be you want to be in food and beverage and you want to open up a drink stand. You want to do bubble tea. Well, you know what? Guess what? You have a threat of substitution. Maybe people don't want your bubble tea. They go down the street to somebody else who's making some other coffee per se. So it's an applicable tool when we're talking about strategy. How do you fit and what makes you unique and to bring those customers to you? But a very difficult tool. The last tool, and the one we'll dig into just a little bit, is the pestle analysis. If you're a marketeer, if you're in the marketing, a lot of times the marketing departments use pestle, but really it's a strategic tool. It's an acronym, PESTEL. So P, we'll dig into them. So it's an acronym. Let's dig into it. So P, it's the political aspect of it. When you're thinking strategically, what do you want to do with your organization, your business? You got to think about the political aspect of it. Is there a political, I don't know, policy, something that comes out by the government that's going to cause you to not achieve your goal? Economics. How are we doing economically? Like in 2008, we had the world recession. You open a new business, or you open a new business during COVID. Economically, do people have money? Maybe, maybe not. So E, the first E. The second E, third E, the first S, social. What's the social environment look like? You know, like in Cambodia. Cambodia has a very young demographic. You don't want to be selling, I don't know, old people stuff in Cambodia. You want to sell stuff that caters to the demographic. So know the social aspect of the market that you're in. Technology, where are you at technologically? In Indonesia, we'll talk about it. I mean, we're going to have Kristian talk about, YouTubing. 10 years ago, I don't know, maybe YouTube wasn't a huge thing. It is today. Why? Because of the mobile phones, the hand phones, technologically, right? Even communication networks getting out to the outer islands. Environmental stuff. It could be COVID. It could be literally climate change and things like that. And then legal. What are the legal ramifications? Can you do it or can you not do it because of the legal ramifications? That will affect your strategy, and you need to put it into your strategic thinking. So we'll look at pests. Some people break pestle down to pest, just the 4 letters. An example of a pest analysis might be looking like this. So political, economic, social, technical. You might look at stuff. I like to look at numbers sometimes. So here I highlighted some numbers. Maybe there's import restrictions. You have under the social piece. And this is just an example. This is not, it's not my analysis. It's an example. A number of individuals and companies going through the internet, 67%, 45%. Take that into consideration as you're doing your strategic plans. What does academia, my world, talk about? This pestle analysis. Strategy and tactics are 2 inseparable dynamics of an organization of the same chess game. Organization's theoretical, infinite life cycle needs well-established strategic management. And in theory, this pestle analysis is a perfect solution, could be seen as a perfect solution to provide that advantage. Now, the question you need to ask is, how about the practical? Does it really work in practice? The short answer is yes, it does. So I'm going to talk about a real world situation that just occurred. As a matter of fact, I just gave a presentation at my university a few weeks ago on this. I'm not sure if you know about it, but there's a global slowdown in the supply chain. And it just happens to be that, I heard that Kristian's also from a log background. Not that I am, but I come from a maintenance background. But I'll talk about it in real world situation. So we have this issue with supply chain. And what's happening is there's a jam. There's a supply chain jam that's out there. And it's not getting any better anytime soon. So we're going to try to apply the pestle analysis to this. Okay. So the traffic jam itself. In America, Dunkin' Donuts, they don't have donuts. Well, how do you open a Dunkin' Donuts with no donuts? There's no supply. Tesco in Europe, they have to put pictures of oranges in Tesco. Why? Because the ships can't bring the stuff. They can't put it to the shelves. Christmas is coming. I want an Xbox, chip shortage. How about a van? Can't do it. How about, some lemons? Bottleneck at the airport. Santa Claus can't even bring coal. He can't even give something bad to the kids. So let's dig into the jam very briefly. I'll talk about container industry, what's happening, the trade wars, and then of course the coronavirus. It's a perfect storm that occurred, a perfect storm that came to be. And let's look at how pestle analysis and strategic planning plays into this perfect storm. Because as you all move into 2022, 2023, this supply chain issue could be an issue for you, depending upon what industry you operate in. So the perfect storm started to occur. It happened years ago. We talk in business about streamlining. I don't know if you're familiar with total quality management, lean operations, just-in-time logistics. That started a long time ago. The dependency on China for manufacturing. Basically all of our manufacturing comes out of China. All the plants come out of China. Shipping. There's been changes in the shipping industry, consolidation, these gigantic, massive ships that are out there. Tariffs. Hopefully you know a little bit about tariffs. Consumer behavior, and then of course the virus and this major event that occurred earlier this year. So ask yourself as I go through this, how pestle analysis gets involved in this. So the overview, 90% of our trade happens on water. 11.1 billion goods moved over the oceans. $4 trillion worth of goods move annually over the water. That requires people and vessels to move it from point A to point B. That makes up this thing called the logistics system in the global trade network. You can look at this crazy map of how things move globally. You know, it's a mess when you look at it. It's a bunch of strings moving all over. And it works in concert, and sometimes it works well. But over the past 2 years, it hasn't worked well. One of the issues is these gigantic ships. These are gigantic ships. Back in the day, 60 years ago, only 58 containers on a boat. Nowadays, we're talking 24,000 20-foot containers on a boat. Think about that. The size of the ship goes up. The number of cargo, the containers, 24,000 of them. Imagine the amount of equipment that's on there. So the question you ask yourself is, are container ships getting too big? Maybe. In March of this year, we had an incident happen in the Suez Canal. So from the pestle analysis, you know, maybe this is an issue of economics, technology, and the environment. That could be an issue if you apply it to the pestle analysis. Tariffs. If you know what a tariff is, it's here's napkin finance. If you look at that top line, a tariff is a tax placed on things that are made. And it's usually to protect local manufacturing, to protect your local factories. Well, in America, and I can speak from an American perspective, we have an issue with China, and President Trump wanted to put a tariff on the Chinese products coming in. You look at the trade imbalance between the United States and China, huge trade imbalance. So what did he do? He used a tool. He used the tariff hammer on the Chinese. That's a policy that was put in place. And you can literally see part of the law. Now, how do I apply it to pestle? Well, it's P for political. It's also economic, and it's also legal. So you can see how I'm stitching in what's occurring globally along with the pestle analysis itself. Effects of policy decisions. So what happened that led to this jam? There was a rush on cargo because of the tariffs. A lot of people were buying things, and we call this front loading. So the retailers, all the shops bought a bunch of stuff. They wanted to get into America and all their locations before the tariffs hit. So all this stuff's kind of sitting at the port. It's jammed up to begin with. So they're crippled with stuff, not enough people to take the items off of the boat, and then the virus comes. So we hear that the cargo plummets. We don't see people moving in the first few months of 2020. But you know what happened next? People are home. And what happens when people are at home? They got money. And when people are at home and they have money, what do? You guys go online. You buy stuff. So we already got this bunch of stuff sitting at the port. They can't move it because it's front loaded. You guys are buying stuff. The American shoppers, I would imagine in Indonesia, same thing. You start buying it again, but now there's COVID. So back to economics, technology, right? You're on your phones, economics, there's money, there's not money. You know, I had to pull a picture of Gojek in there for sure. I had to do it, right? Because I know Indonesia, you have these. But we have COVID, we have this logjam, the front loading, and then we had this occur in March of this year. And what this occurred was a gigantic ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal. And we say it's the canary in the coal mine, which means it's predicting a problem that's coming. This gigantic ship got stuck in the Suez Canal for 6 days. So if you look at the Suez Canal, it's up here. Basically, what is that? Egypt, right? Jordan, those areas. And it cuts off. I mean, you can look at the considerable difference if you want to go around the Cape of New Hope or go through the Suez Canal to bring stuff to Europe. It created a log jam. These boats are waiting to get through the Suez Canal. And then it comes to a strategic decision, right? So it gets stuck for 6 days. Look at that figure economically. The impact of that ship getting stuck, $6 million of trade held up every minute because of the ship being stuck there. Think strategically if you have a business of how this could affect you. The sail effect, boats are big. Well, guess what? Physics, you can never overcome physics. The wind pushed the vehicle, it pushed the boat, it got stuck in the Suez Canal. So a strategic decision had to be made. Do you want your stuff to sit there, wait for the vessel to move, or do you want to move around move around Africa? Well, if you move around Africa, that takes basically 6 days, or I think maybe even a week to get around. You want to move it around the bottom of the continent? That's going to cost money. Again, a political decision here, an economic decision, a technological decision, and an environmental decision. The more you float the boat, the more you have to burn fossil fuels. COVID occurs, warning signs were there of the trade market. The trade, takes people. Well, if nobody's producing anything, nobody can move the gear. Doesn't matter if you have a manufacturing facility, you still got to get the stuff off of the ship. So the pandemic hits, factories are shut down, no one's making product. Even if they did, they couldn't move it. So multiple things occurring. All the logjam starts to occur. So as I walk through this, again, this is a real world occurrence that just happened and it's going to keep happening. You think about it, the years are streamlining, economics, technological, the high dependency on China, that's a political issue. It's an economic issue. It's a technological issue. You look at the consumer behavior, again, economics, social, that's a social issue that's occurred. Technological as well. People on their phones, they can buy stuff from home. The virus itself, the pandemic. So Christmas is coming. I guess Santa Claus might have to bring out his reindeer and, pull the stuff to us because it's, I guess in America, I don't know about Indonesia, maybe Alan will tell me or Kristian will tell me or somebody else, is there going to be a negative effect of this in Indonesia? Maybe, maybe not, I'm not sure, but I know it's affected the world. So my final thoughts, the wisdom of the elders. So here, let me read it to you because it's always good when you read a quote. Here delicious things, there delicious things. The monkey goes for them all and falls flat on his back. Or you have the dog, a dog sitting on a warm veranda, like on the porch, sitting on the porch, doesn't move despite hearing of a roaring lion and ends up dead. What does this all mean? Well, it goes back to strategy. The wisdom, these elders, they talk about, what strategy is about. You want to be like the monkey? Where you're overstretched, you can't get enough, you gorge yourself. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. At the end of the day, you become overstretched and ineffective. Or do you want to be the dog? You want to sit back and relax and be complacent and not do anything? Hopefully not. Ultimately, these are the decisions you need to make for the future as you move forward. Know who you are in your organization. Strategic planning is about identity, mission, vision. Know your purpose, what unique contribution you have, right? Who you are as an organization and as a person. Answers might be clear at the start, but you know what? Sometimes they become fuzzy. You don't know what's happening. In strategic planning, we call it cleaning the mirror. Sometimes you need to clean that mirror, get back into refocus on what you want to do. Clean that mirror from a strategic perspective. Change is always abound. We in leadership need to understand that the world is, Euclid said that, change is the only constant. So predicting the environment that's likely to change, things will occur. As I mentioned before, in leadership, think about where you're going to be in the future. Put your best plan out there. It involves listening to those roaring lions, be attentive to those threats that are there. Use the tools like PESTLE and the 5 forces and the blue ocean strategy. No, what we're talking about is not exact science. In my world of social science, it's not like physics and mathematics. We don't have defined things. It's very fuzzy. We do the best that we can do in our planning. That's all we have, at our availability. It's like skating. I don't know, maybe it's not a good analogy, but if you skate, and we play this game in North America called hockey, right? But skating to where you want to be, you predict the future. Sometimes you have to have what we call strategic funerals. And what that means is if it's not working in your strategy, you get out of it, you take it away, you have a funeral for it, you get rid of it. So a strategic funeral sometimes occurs. I know you don't know much about hockey, you may not even understand hockey. Hockey has a little black puck. And this is probably the best hockey player ever to play the game. And the takeaway, he says, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been. If you think about that in business, you look at the future and you skate to where you want to be. And that's where the puck is. And that's where you need to be. And that's where vision is there. Good leaders understand it. Having a great vision and mission statement and knowing your strategy and executing the strategy will get you there. So today I talked about vision and mission, a little bit about leadership. I can talk for hours on leadership, a little bit about strategy, some of the tools that are there, some of these little, wisdom of elders. I found this kind of cool. I think it's a cool quote. You may not think it's a cool quote, but I do. Youngsters lack wisdom. Elders lack energy. Like I'm as I get older, right? I'm 55. I'm lacking a little bit of energy. But when wisdom and energy come together, great things are destined to occur. This is good about collaboration, right, in organizations. And with this, there's a little bit of jokes here and there. Our strategy is to be nimble and agile. You hear these words all the time, right? Nimble and agile. Do other companies have a strategy of being clumsy and slow? And then, I guess the boss, like, how'd the new strategy rollout go? Well, they ruined it with their questions. Yeah, well, questions are important. That being said, that concludes my presentation. Again, it was a great opportunity to come in and kind of give you a theoretical picture of what's going on from the books, but also a little bit of practical stuff. And to know that, when we talk about strategy, that there is a structure behind the scenes that you may not be aware of, but it's there. It's there. And it's guys like Alan and, Petra University that help you understand these things behind the scenes. Guys like me in the theoretical world, but also in the practical world. I am a businessman at heart. I am an entrepreneur. So that concludes my presentation, Alan. I'll throw it back to you, and I'll wait. I'm waiting for Kristian, and we'll get to the question and answer sessions later. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Albert. That was a very, very interesting topic that you actually present. I really love it. Right? How you discuss about how strategic actually differs from tactics. And I believe a lot of people actually doesn't understand the difference between strategy and tactics. So this one is actually a very interesting topic to be talked upon. And when you give example about the pastel and also about the logistic that is actually happening in the world, especially during the pandemic, how the movement of the goods flow, that was actually very interesting. Yeah, I really like it. Yeah. I actually love your axiom that you say that everything in life starts and ends with leadership. I joke aside, normally everything in life starts and ends with your wife. Yeah, that's from me. Joseph.
She's my leader. She's my. I didn't say that. That should be axiom. 0.1.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Abu. That was a very good one. I really love it. All right. With that being said, we still got the second presentation, and this one will also be very interesting as well. Okay. This will be about how Kristian experience, as I mentioned, moving from a professional background, which is as a logistic manager, and actually shift his career now, become an entrepreneur, which is a content creator. And how does business life shift pre and post pandemic? We'll hear that from Kristian as well. And what will be the important business strategy, or so to say, business trade to face 2022? So without further ado, Mr. Kristian, the virtual floor will be yours.
Thank you so much, Alan. And just wanted to say thank you to Albert as well. Super, super interesting presentation. I really enjoyed it. So guys, if you quickly need to take something to drink or quickly hit the bathroom, let me just quickly get my presentation up on the screen. I am usually not using Zoom a lot, so I just want to make sure that I can put this up on the screen before we begin. So give me a minute or two, and then we will continue. All right. So guys, I just want to make sure that on the screen now, the only thing you're seeing is me, correct?
Yes.
Good. Okay. All right, guys. I told you I would give you a second to get some to drink or quickly check your social media if that is necessary. I know how it is. And then we will get started. All right. Okay. Give me 1 second. All right, almost there. Come on. Okay. All right, guys, I think we're ready. So, all is good. Yes. Guys, apa kabar? Nama saya Kristian Hansen dari Denmark. Saya udah lama di Indonesia untuk 1 tahun setengah dan saya YouTuber. Sekarang saya tinggal di Jakarta, but I'm planning to do a lot of traveling in Indonesia over the next couple of years. You are welcome to call me Kristian, Mas Chris, Christmas, atau my Javanese name, Cristianto Hantoro. Feel free to call me whatever you like. Yes, how you like that, Johan? I'm glad to hear that. Okay, guys, and I will encourage you now to put down your happies. I know how it used to be in college, having presentations online. I know we all have them right here, right? But I promise you that if you put them down over the next 35, 40 minutes, I will be sharing some interesting news with you, some interesting knowledge that I'm sure could be beneficial to you in the present and future. So guys, today I will be sharing a little bit about my knowledge as a content creator and as an entrepreneur, and based on my experience within the profession. But I'll also tell you guys a story about a hardworking guy that have lived all around the world, traveled solo, living thousands of kilometers away from his family, on a path to become a millionaire when basically everything he thought he wanted changed when he came to Indonesia. So make sure you stay until the end, guys, because I will be sharing today an exclusive secret that I have not told anyone yet, besides my videographer, Masjun, and my family. And it will be shared on YouTube within the next month or two. So stay till the end, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it interesting. So guys, in order for you to understand a little bit more about where I'm coming from, let me quickly tell you a bit about myself. When I was 13, guys, I dropped out of my primary school and I started on an international school instead, where I would have all my classes, all my subjects in English. So that would be math, science, geography. All of my classes would be taught in English instead of my native language in Danish. And I would also be having Spanish classes 3 to 4 times per week. After finishing this international primary school, I then went on to a elite gymnastics boarding school for an entire year, living on the school. And I wasn't fantastic at gymnastics when I started, but I knew it was the best gymnastics school. And if I went there, I'm sure I would become really good. And I ended up touring around the country for months, doing shows with this entire school, and ended up becoming really good at it. So after a year, bit of a gap year, we call it, going to boarding school in Denmark, I then chose to go to International Business College, where we focused on yearly travels to different countries. We focused on international economics and culture. And the reason why I did this is because ever since I was in like 3rd grade, I've always had a huge interest in anything related to international lifestyle, international travel. And I clearly remember the first time I started having English in school, and I just learned how to say refrigerator. I could not wait to go to class, tell my teacher that I can now say refrigerator. That was how much I was into English and this entire international journey that was ahead of me. So after finishing my business college, I didn't want to use all of my savings just to travel the world like most of my friends were going to do in their gap year. So instead, I took a big chunk of money and I spent it on education, on becoming a tour guide. So that was 8 weeks in Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. And that is where I learned everything about tourism, how to take people around in different countries, greet them at the airport. And this way I was able to travel for 2.5 years while making money at the same time. So I lived in Cyprus, I lived in 2 different islands in Spain, I lived in Tanzania, in Africa, I lived in Turkey. And this just gave me this traveling bug, I think you would call it. I wanted to travel more, but I also wanted to make more money. So what I did is I went back home to Denmark. I wanted to get a degree after mastering my tour guide business. And basically, I didn't care what degree I was going to get, as long as I could get a degree that would allow me to live abroad. So I did a lot of research and I found out that logistics was a perfect way to do this. So while studying 2 years on my logistics degree in Denmark, I also had a long-standing dream of becoming a bodybuilding champion, because I've always worked out since I was 14 years old. So add the end of those 2 years, I had my logistics degree and I had my gold medal as a national bodybuilding champion in Denmark 2017. And that meant waking up at 4 o'clock every single morning, hitting the gym, then working, studying for logistics all day, coming back again, working out at night. And that was basically my 2 years, but I was goal oriented and I knew what I wanted. So long story short, guys, after getting my gold medal and my logistics degree, I was headhunted for a position in Atlanta, Georgia, US, where I was going to be handling the import pharmaceuticals coming in by ships and by air. And I did that for 1.5 years, and then I was offered a contract in Indonesia. And when I was first offered this contract, I knew basically nothing about Indonesia. Of course, I had heard about Bali, but it was an unknown country to me. And I came to Indonesia, guys, and everything was working out well. I found the country to be so interesting. Even having traveled to 40 different countries, lived and worked in 7 different countries, I had never tried anything like Indonesia before. So again, long story short, my dream was happening. I was getting my corner office in the middle of the fancy IFC building in Sudirman. I had my own driver. I was making my best salary to date. I was wearing a fancy suit, my fancy watch, having important meetings. And then Indonesia turned my life upside down. There's actually a small YouTube short on my channel called Indonesia Changed My Life. I'll recommend you to watch that after the presentation, please, if you want to know more about it. But the more I learned about your amazing country, Indonesia, I started to travel around outside of Jakarta on my motorcycle. I would go to the kampungs and I would go to Cirebon, to Chitorek, Cimaja, to Pangandaran, Yogyakarta, Dieng, Wonosobo. And I realized that when I came out there, it didn't matter if I had a fancy title, a fancy watch, if I was wearing a suit, or I didn't need all these fancy things to impress the Indonesian people. All I needed to do was to be polite, show my interest in their country, and there were no limits to their friendliness towards me. And this just changed my goals completely. Because like Dr. Albert mentioned in his presentation, what is success really? Before coming to Indonesia, for me, that was money and status. But that have completely changed ever since I came to Indonesia. So now I have quit my job in logistics. I do YouTube full time, and my dream is to learn as much as I can about Indonesia over the next couple of years. And see what challenges that lies ahead for me. So I hope that caught your attention, guys, because now I want to talk a bit about the industry as a content creator and influencer here in Indonesia. So I just want to quickly mention, I decided not to use a PowerPoint slide today because unlike Dr. Albert, who is clearly an expert on presentations within PowerPoint and on Zoom, I'm used to doing YouTube and Instagram lives. So I prefer just looking at the camera and for you to experience all my facial expressions, and so you can see how I actually feel about it and how excited I am to have this presentation today. So guys, what did we learn from the pandemic? Physical businesses, they were hit a lot harder than online businesses, right? Because now we are in an era of everything pretty much being online. And online businesses, they have had an opportunity like never before during this pandemic, because with most people working from home, like yourself, studying from home, we had more time to catch up on social media. We had more time to sit with our HPs and browse on Tokopedia, atau Shopee. And I think most of you would agree with me. I cannot see all of you on the cameras today, unfortunately. If you have a camera, I highly encourage you to turn it on. It makes it a lot more fun for me to be able to see your faces. But I believe that if I could see all of your faces now, when I ask you this, did you or did you not spend more time on your HP during the pandemic than you did before the pandemic? I'm pretty sure that most of you would say yes, right? Because we had plenty of time to sit and look at our phones quickly in between classes, in between Zoom meetings. And this has made a magnificent growth online, especially on social media and online advertisement. So I won't talk too much about the pandemic today, guys, but I will tell you this, and I really want you to remember it. It is a quote. I love quotes, and like Dr. Albert, I could see use them in his presentation. I will pick one from the British banker Baron Rothschild said this in the 18th century, and more recently it was said by one of my biggest idols, the American investor Warren Buffett. It's like this: when there's blood in the streets, you buy. When there's blood in the streets, you buy. This is related to purchasing stocks in troubled times. But how is this relevant to the pandemic and the post-pandemic and for entrepreneurs? You see, during a crisis or a dangerous situation, most people will think of it as a time to be cautious and to prepare for the worst. But a small percentage of people will instead think of this opportunity to take massive action, take advantage of the situation, and even though it might be at a higher risk, it could also potentially bring a higher reward. And to give you an example of a company that really have benefited from this is a company that took massive action during the pandemic, and it is actually something that every one of us is using right now. And in case you haven't guessed it already, correct, it is Zoom. Zoom, they 30x, they 30 times doubled their downloads of the application during the pandemic. And of course, Zoom was a perfect company to increase their size, their brand, their users during the pandemic, because suddenly everybody had to go online, right? But what you don't know is that they spent a massive amount of money on advertising, promoting their platform, which have given them the success that they have today. And to give you a quick example also how good that they have progressed during the pandemic, I will tell you that before the pandemic, Zoom's stocks, they had a price of $70 per stock. I don't know if you guys have access to the chat room. If you do, quickly put in the chat, how much do you think that Zoom's stock increased during the pandemic? It started at around $70. How much do you think it increased? Go ahead and put it in the chat if you have access, guys. Did it increase 20% over a year, 50% over a year, 30%? I can see Gabriele saying maybe 70%. In the beginning of the pandemic, guys, Zoom stock were at $70. All right, a few more guesses. 20%, it's a really good guess. Guys, during the pandemic, 1,000%, BPMF3, Irvin said. That is actually a really good guess, Irvin, because, guys, during the pandemic, Zoom stock increased by 800%, going roughly from $70 to $560 something per stock. And you know who else won during the pandemic? YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. They have seen growth like never before, according to the CNBC, because of this pandemic, because there's been so many more new content creators going online and so much more content posted, because suddenly we had so much time at home, and everything from Ibu making food in the kitchen to someone dancing on TikTok, we suddenly had so much more time to pick up our hobby, shoot a video, and post it. Which brings me to my next point, guys, and especially upcoming for 2022. Right now, guys, content of any sort pretty much is on fire. We are seeing content being posted every single day like never before. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered, when you've been sitting with your handphone looking on Instagram, why you keep seeing in the stories the same commercial again and again? And in the beginning, when you see it, you're like, okay, yeah, sure, it's another advertisement. But then you see it for the fourth time, for the fifth time, for the sixth time, and suddenly you think, okay, maybe this is something that I actually need. This personally happens to me all the time when I'm using my phone. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I'll be seeing a backpack that I definitely don't need, and I'll see it again and again and again. And suddenly I'm thinking, yeah, actually, I have an upcoming trip soon. And this one is also newer, and it's actually quite cheap. And bam, just like that, my favorite YouTuber, Atta Halilintar, you probably know him, most of you guys, he posts a picture wearing this backpack. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sold. Now I have to get this backpack if Atta has it, right? This, guys, is called the rule of 7. It's a marketing strategy designed to expose you to a product or business as up to 7 times. Especially today, we'll do it many more times in order to convince you that you need this product. And today, companies are taking full advantage of using influencers to advertise their products with this strategy because it brings a more personal touch, and it will all often interest the viewer more if it includes someone that we really look up to or that we respect. For example, one of my big idols is The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Maybe some of you know him, the American actor, former wrestler, Mana Tequila, all this. And here in Indonesia, I know that Atta Halilintar, with his 28 juta subscribers, is really popular as well, right? So today we're getting so much exposure from all these content creators and famous people, YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagrammers than never before. And why do we keep being exposed to this? Because, guys, there is so much money in the advertising business. In total worldwide spending on digital advertising in 2020, there was spent $378 billion. That's almost $400 billion on digital advertising. In 2021, guys, just 1 year later, the total worldwide spending is currently roughly 455 billion US dollars. That's almost a 20% increase in just 1 year. That is a lot of money. That's a lot of payment to advertisers, to influencers, and according to the Influencer Marketing Hub, 62% of marketing businesses, they are planning to increase their budget for influencers in 2022. 40% of these companies are planning to increase it by at least 20%. And already in 2021, we are seeing an increase in influencer marketing campaigns than we did in 2020. And this presents a huge opportunity to anyone who could create content, if it's with a camera, if it's with your handphone, even if you cannot make content right now, it still is an opportunity for you because you can learn it like I did. And yeah, today it's Instagram stories, it's TikTok, it's Instagram Reels. But I want to ask you, I will encourage you again to use the chat, guys. What kind of content do you think personally will be the most popular, most upcoming, most influential in 2022? Will we be seeing, put it in the chat now, will we be seeing more TikToks? Will we be seeing more YouTube Reels? Is it going to be more related to blog posts, more to streaming? I see someone saying YouTube. Angela, I hope you are right, because that is what I'm making. So sure hope that's true. What is it going to be? Is it going to be Snapchat making a comeback again? Personally, I think TikTok is also really increasing really fast and is super popular here in Indonesia. TikTok, we're saying gaming. That is an interesting point. Gaming is getting increasingly popular as well. TikToks, YouTube Short. Okay, guys, so looking at the answers here in the chat, streaming as well, they all have one thing in common. Video, guys. Videography. Video is something we're going to be seeing a lot more of in 2022, more than ever before. Because let's just for fun go back 10 years. 10 years ago, it was all about pictures. Posting pictures on our Facebook profile of our dog Fifi or Ibu making dinner for the guests, writing blog posts about our day, about our work experience, how-to guys. And then in 2011, Snapchat launched and was a big hit back then. It's not as popular today as it was back then, but it allowed us to easily make video clips, small video clips with text, edit them, and share them in a blink of a second. And Instagram had released the year before in 2010, but wasn't that popular yet. But today, guys, everything is about video. Based on my opinion and my research, it is much easier to promote your message, your company, your product through a 5 to 10 second short video clip that you can do with just posting one picture and writing a long caption. Because today, guys, we are in a fast moving world. I think we can all agree on this. We want everything to happen fast and we want it like right now. And it is the same for when we are ordering on Tokopedia, right? Personally, I don't know how you order on Tokopedia, but most of the times I will order with the instant option, so I can get it in like 3 or 4 hours. I might not need it until tomorrow, but I think it's more fun to get the package today, right? Same goes for looking for a pajar. For Dr. Allen, that means a boyfriend, girlfriend. We can do this today with Tinder, with Bumble. We have so many options within seconds, right? And the same goes for the content that we want to see on our screens today. We want to be entertained. We want to be amazed, shocked, touched, engaged. And through creative editing and carefully planned content, videography is the perfect tool to do just that if used correctly. We had TikTok in the chat, right, as a suggestion. They have, guys, currently more than 1 billion active users worldwide. That is roughly 13% of every people living in the entire world. And through video clips and social media, we can capture someone's attention with a TikTok, for example, so super fast. And companies in 2022 are going to be banking on this because there's money to be made from it. But a good question is, can anyone, this is something that I researched for before I started doing YouTube myself. Someone said in the chat, I can't help but notice this, more annoying YouTube premium ads. I'm sorry, buddy, but that is how YouTube works at the moment. I'll try to limit my ads in my videos. Anyway, something that I researched myself before making YouTube is it still possible to become a successful YouTuber or content creator I searched for 2020, right? But now we're going into 2022. Do you guys still think it's possible to do it? Personally, let me say it like this. Going back just 5 years, you would need a massive following base to become popular on or to sign big deals with companies on YouTube, on Instagram. But today, guys, companies are relying more and more on what's called micro. What's happening? Oh, someone accidentally turned on their microphone. Halo, selamat datang ke presentation saya ya. So yeah, what I was gonna say is, yes, guys, I think it's possible to succeed as a small influencer today because more and more businesses, they are relying on what's called micro influencers. If you don't know what a micro influencer is, it's someone that has anything from 1,000 followers, subscribers to 100,000 followers. It can be Instagram, it can be TikTok, YouTube. And why are companies relying suddenly on micro influencers as an intermediator for their advertisement? They are doing this because now the large influencers, popular influencers like The Rock again or Atta Halilintar, they know how much to charge to promote a product. So for the same kind of money, the large companies, they can go in and say, okay, instead of giving Atta maybe 300 million to make this advertisement, instead we can hire 100 micro influencers to promote this campaign for us instead. So they're doing it first because it's a lot cheaper, but more importantly, because micro influencers, they are so popular because of their authenticity and their credibility. Yes, the famous influencers, they have a big reach. They have maybe a million subscribers, 2 million subscribers. But the micro influencers, their followers are primarily friends, family, acquaintances, and this gives them a higher engagement rate, because if your followers are your friends, your family, acquaintances, there's a higher chance that you will get more likes, more comments, more shares, more reaction to your content. And this is what companies are looking for today. They're not looking so much for the massive exposure, but they're looking for engagement. That's why if you go out as a content creator and you want to get a deal with a company, they will often ask, what is your engagement rate? Because this is how much people are actually responding to your content. So it is still possible to make a decent living as a content creator in 2022. But I'm also going to say, guys, it is not easy. Like I often mention to my friends, to my followers, subscribers, I will say this. I quit my 9 to 5 to become free, but now I'm working 24/7. I know it's such a cliche, but it's so true. It is indeed hard work, and there's so much competition. While figuring out what people want to see, you'll have to find out what they're interested, what is there a market for right now? How can I, in such a competitive pool of YouTubers, stand out and make my own kind of content, like Albert mentioned? And at the same time, it's so important that you try to be real with yourself and not try and show people something that you are not. I will get a little bit more back to this later on. So, guys, looking at all of you here today, how many of you have ever thought about becoming an influencer? Do you guys use maybe your hobby to promote some product that your friend has? Maybe it's something that you create yourself. Maybe you love to take photos, make your own edits, because today we can also very easily make edits on our handphones, right? If you want to be an influencer or a content creator, TikToker, Instagrammer, I just have a few things that I really want to mention to you today, and that I hope that you will keep in mind if you choose to do. As many of you has probably seen, a lot of influencers today, they will promote pretty much any kind of product. We have all seen it. Suddenly they're promoting the collar for their cat. Tomorrow they'll be posting something about dental floss, and suddenly it's about gardening tools and gaming equipment. Some influencers will promote anything in order to make income from these advertisements. And I will recommend you to be really careful about this, because it is a very fine balance. If I were to do that all the time, nonstop, on my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my followers, they would be so annoyed, because they would realize, okay, he's basically just trying to sell us everything, anything, and he doesn't really care about providing value for us. So you have to find a fine balance of promoting products, if that is what you want to do, and at the same time providing value to the people that are watching your content. That's why my best advice as a content creator is, don't ever promote a product that you cannot stand behind 100%, and preferably that you are using yourself. And the most important point for being a YouTuber content creator is always be yourself. Don't try to be something that you're not, because like Dr. Albert said, know who you are. People will see it so easily in your content if you're trying to be something that you're actually not. And personally, from my own experience, it's not as enjoyable as just being yourself. So the best way to succeed as a content creator in 2022 or as a YouTuber is figure out what kind of topics that people are really interesting at the moment. It can also be trends, like Albert mentioned. But at the same time, it has to be something that you really find interesting. Otherwise, you cannot do it long term if it's not something that you really care about yourself. And how can your content potentially help other people? I think personally, the best way to succeed is to figure out how you can help other people. In my mind and in my world, the best thing that you can do here in life is to help other people. A line that I will often use when people ask me why I so often do donations in my videos, why I do a fundraiser campaign, for example, I will mention a verse from the Bible, actually, that says, "Give and it shall be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." I think this is so true. And also because I have experienced it myself. It doesn't always have to be money that you're giving out or helping with. It can also be a simple favor. But I guarantee you that, 99% of the time, if you help someone else, it will come back to you when you need it the most. So guys, put it down on a piece of paper today. I promise you this will make your day better. It will make someone else's day better. Write down on a piece of paper right now, who could you help today? Do you know anyone that could use your help today? It is often so simple, and the same goes for being a content creator, a YouTuber. The reason why I have made it so far is because everyone I meet along the way, I will always tell them, if there's anything I can do for you, use my network, my social media to help you with, just let me know. And you know, guys, it always comes back. It's always good to help other people. And this brings me to my next point about the spirit and the challenges as an entrepreneur. So moving into the entrepreneurial space, one of the reasons why I am so happy and so grateful to be here today, thank you so much to Petra University and to Marcellen for allowing me this opportunity, is that I have today the option to share with you some of the challenge that I have learned as an entrepreneur that can hopefully help you and inspire some of you that might have a ambition to become an entrepreneur yourself one day. Therefore, I want to take this opportunity. Stay with me, guys. We are almost there, but I want to take this opportunity to tell you guys a story about my YouTube journey here in Indonesia, because it consists of all the elements and all the phases of starting something on your own. And today, guys, starting a business is basically the new black, right? It means it's very, very popular. Everyone wants to start their own business. Business is if if it's as a YouTuber, making your own coffee stand, making your own shop on Tokopedia. And it's a fantastic trend because it requires innovation, it requires new thinking, it sparks growth to the economy, and it creates more jobs, new jobs. But I also want to mention that starting your own business, guys, is not a walk in the park, meaning it's not something that happens overnight. Coming back to another quote, one of my favorite quotes said by the American entertainer Eddie Cantor is, "It takes about 20 years to become an overnight success." So when I first decided I wanted to try and create a YouTube channel, I spent every single hour, guys, I had for an entire month on studying how to film, how to edit, how the YouTube algorithm works. I believe if you want to do something, you have to do it 100% or don't bother doing it at all, because there's plenty of people doing it at 30%, 50%, 70%. But if you have something that you really want to do and you give everything you have, or not necessarily everything, you can still do part-time, but if you do your best, there are usually no limits to the success you can have. And that is how I started this YouTube journey, by giving everything that I had and work hard for it. So after 1 month of studying, editing, it was time to post my first video, and it was called This is Jakarta. And basically it was a video about my year through the pandemic, living in Jakarta as an expat. And it was nerve-wracking, guys. I had made my first video, and now it was time for me to post it on YouTube for everyone to see. And I suddenly realized, okay, all right, suddenly everybody can watch my video and they can judge me, they can judge my content. And I was like cold sweating, thinking, what is people gonna think? I imagined in my head someone laughing, saying like, ooh, Kristian thinks he's a YouTuber now. Oh, he's so cool. But what kept going through my mind, because I have read a ton of personal development books, is no risk, no reward. No risk, no reward. If I could not take action and take this risk of exposing myself online, I could never succeed as a YouTuber. So I had to do it. So I posted it, and I waited, and I waited, and I was sitting right here in my apartment in Kuningan, Jakarta, and I was just I was refreshing the page, right? Refreshing it. Okay, 1 view, 3 views, 5 views, 10 views. And then it was slow. And then it was like suddenly 100 views. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of people. And before the end of the day, guys, I had 3,000 views on my first video, and it blew my mind. I was like hooked. I was like, if I can get 3,000 people to watch my first ever video on YouTube, I can make a lot more, and I can do it a lot better. And the comments, they were so inspiring and so uplifting, because if there's one thing I've learned about Indonesians, is incredibly patient people, but also incredibly polite and encouraging. And I got so many comments from all around Indonesia asking me to do more videos. So that's what I did. And 2 months passed. I managed to make another 4 videos. It took me around, at that point, 20 to 30 hours to produce one video. And I knew in my heart that I had to do it because I had to do my very best. I had already put out one video and I knew that more people wanted to watch. So I had to make more content. I had to make sure that they really enjoyed it. So I will wake up, guys, at 4 o'clock in the morning, do my editing. Then I still had my office job as a logistics manager here in Jakarta. So I'd go to the office from 9 to 5, and then I would come home. I would sit down at this desk, swap out my office computer from my YouTube laptop that I also had to invest in. And then I would edit until like 12, 1 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock at night, get maybe 3-4 hours of sleep, and then I would do it again. It was basically kerja every day, 7 days a week for months. And yes, I was close to burning out a lot of times. I actually had on this whiteboard, I want to make sure you can see it. Yeah, I have my whiteboard right here where I do all my planning. So this is for like upcoming content, how my subscribers have progressed, all my secret plans, all this. And I would have on this whiteboard, I would set a marker for every time that I would feel like giving up. I swear to you, some days it was like 10, 15, 20 times in a day. I would think, Kristian, your life is not interesting. It sounds weird when you speak Bahasa. You sound like an Indian. And I would keep like questioning myself. And every time I did that, I would put a marker on this whiteboard. And after those 2 months, I would see this long line of all the times that I wanted to give up, but it motivated me because I kept going, even though I wanted to quit so many times. And, you know, guys, it paid off because 1 month later, I went viral here in Indonesia, making a video about trying to fast for Ramadan in order to show support and respect for my Muslim subscribers. And it got over 1 million views. I got 20,000 new subscribers in less than 10 days. And my point is this: being an entrepreneur, a YouTuber, a TikToker, content creator, whatever, it is hard work, guys. And even if you want to do it part-time, it's also hard work. But I always believe that good deeds and hard work, it doesn't go unnoticed. I believe someone is watching over us, and I believe that he notices when we do a good job and when we are really hustling, we're really trying. It might not happen overnight, but if you keep going with whatever you do and you do your best, the opportunities are limitless. So another quote, guys, I just want to say this because I'm all about quotes. I love it. It's so motivational and you can actually use it in your life. But especially for this period of my life, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. So I would think every time it got so hard and I would think about giving up, I would think to myself, Kristian, it's not an opportunity. It's not a possibility to give up. You have already come this far. Keep going and it will get better. So I hope that this have lit the fire and motivated some of you guys. Let me just, yeah, there it is. Pop on the screen. You can see my PowerPoint presentation right now, right? Sorry, I'm so bad at this Zoom. Yes, mantap, sip. Okay, and now you can see my notes as well. That's fantastic. Okay, yes. So guys, I will be going to Aceh. I will be leaving Jakarta. And over the next 12 to 14 months, I'm planning to be the first foreigner to travel all across Jawa, Sumatra, Jawa, Bali, Lombok, Sumba, Flores, all the way to Papua. I will be going what's called Sabang Merauke. And please keep this a secret between us because I haven't announced it yet, but it'll be 12 to 14 months. And I will be planning to make YouTube content all over Indonesia and basically showcase my subscribers, both foreigners, to show them what a fantastic country Indonesia is, but also to remind Indonesians that, in my opinion, we are living in the best country in the world. So guys, I have put my information here on the screen. Jangan lupa like, comment, and subscribe, yeah? And since we are so many people here today, and I thought, pull out your handphones now if you want to, take a picture of us having this presentation together. Yeah, you are free to pull out your handphones now, guys. Take a picture of your screen right now, post it on Instagram, and tag the Kristian Hansen. I will repost it, and I will do a follow back for the first 20 people that repost this on Instagram. It's a great way to share the message, and also just to say I've really enjoyed doing this presentation for you guys today. How do I stop the share? Like that. Yes. So guys, just to wrap up for today, there we go. I just have to find my notes. If you, my editor June, he's sitting here in the background editing right now, laughing at me. But if you ever, guys, have a good cause, a business idea, anything that I can support you with, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. It can also be an email. I have a business email on YouTube. Shoot me a DM, and I will gladly use my network, see if I can help you in any way. It can also be questions about video editing. I know that you're doing this in school now, and I will gladly help. I so hope that I can one day pergi ke Surabaya and visit all of you. Maybe we could have an editing class, something like this. But if you send me a DM on Instagram, be patient with me because I'm receiving a ton at the moment, but I promise I will get back to you. So I think that is pretty much it for today, guys. Oh, last thing I wanted to mention is, if you ever have any dreams of working with a YouTuber, doing social media marketing, video creation as a job, side hustle, stay tuned on my YouTube and Instagram, because I am planning to expand my team with 2 to 3 more people over the next year. So maybe that could be an interest in us working together. Stay tuned for that. And thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I hope that my story and my knowledge that I've shared here today have inspired some of you to pursue your dreams as well. And I will end today's presentation with something that my father always said to me when I was studying, and that I never understood until I was finished studying. He basically said, Kristian, you go to school every day. You have to be there. So while you're there, spend your time as wisely as possible and do your very best, because your future self are gonna thank you for it. So that is my encouragement to you guys. Semangat, kerja, kerja, kerja. Your future self are gonna thank you for it. Semangat ya. Terima kasih banyak semua, and jangan lupa like, comment, dan subscribe ya. Sip.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kristian, in sharing your experience. Yeah, and hopefully it will be a great inspiration, insight, and motivations for everyone's participants in here. That's actually very interesting, especially when at the beginning you discuss about how videos start to change. I actually remember back to Dr. Albert's presentation. If you actually fail to communicate, you fail in everything in life. So it's come back altogether, which is very interesting. And also about your advice in how you start being an entrepreneur, how you need to give your all, but you also need to, back again, make a strategy. And remember, exactly like what Dr. Albert said, strategy is not the same as tactics. So having a good strategy will be very amazing. All right. So with that being said, I would like to open a Q&A session for everyone. If you do have any questions to Dr. Albert as well as to Mr. Kristian, feel free to ask the questions, or maybe you can put it in the chat box, so I can guide and read the presentation for both speakers.
Alan, I've received a couple direct messages. They have a question.
Oh, okay.
They have a couple questions about the presentation. So I can maybe, and I told one of the individuals that I can maybe share it with the university, and you can distribute as you see fit.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Albert. I'll be getting the presentation later on. The committee can help me to pass the presentation to all participants. All right. Any questions that you guys want to ask for both Dr. Albert as well as Kristian? That will be very amazing.
What I've failed to mention in my presentation today is this was actually one of the main goals that I had when I started my YouTube channel, because like Albert also talked a lot about, you have to find something that other people are not doing to set yourself apart from the competition, right? And I can't remember what word Albert used for it, but my editor, Masoon, he calls them alphas, right? And I knew that I had the alpha of being a bully YouTuber. Let's face it, that's how it is. There was not a lot of people traveling on motorcycles around Indonesia. And I was one of the few, based on what I was seeing, is really taking such an interest into the Indonesian culture and not to, how do you say, push me glory, like highlight myself too much, but I was really doing my best to respect the Indonesian people as well. And so I decided that I was going to do something spectacular within my YouTube channel, but not in the beginning, but later on. And I've always wanted to travel as much as possible. And I have spent a lot of years investing, saving up for a potential opportunity like this, because I knew that one day there would come a day where I would need a good amount of cash to either start up my own business or do something like this. So I was prepared to do it. And it's taken a year of planning and getting ready, getting the YouTube channel up and running. And now the plan is to announce it here the next month. I'm right now securing sponsorships, planning routes, planning content. It's a big plan and super excited about it.
If I could jump in. So Kristian,
Yes.
Kristian raises a great point. So for people in the audience, we talk about strategy, right? So if I could put because I do multiple things, right? I'm an entrepreneur, I own a business, I'm a university professor, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I have all these worlds and I'm a dad on top of it. I'm a 3-year-old baby. I'm 55 with a 3-year-old. So it's a busy life. But what I want to highlight to the people is Kristian raises a very good point, and it goes back to strategy, right? And strategy is differentiation, uniqueness. Now, he's not necessarily doing the low-cost leader in business, right? These are kind of the 3 strategic areas, but he has a uniqueness, right? He has it's a very handsome, young, very presentable face, a white guy, speaks Bahasa fluently. So that is unique, right? There's a uniqueness. And then there's also what differentiates him. Because there might be another, I don't know, but there might be another, what do you call foreigners in Bahasa?
Mule.
Mule. There might be another one, but still something is unique about him. There's something that differentiates him. And that's what, if you're seeking to do whatever you're going to do. Now I put on my motivational coaching hat, right? This is the same thing as finding what is your identity, what makes you stick out differently. He understands that. And Kristian, I was actually going to ask you a question. You answered your question during your presentation. And the question I had for you was, in business, there's always a seminal moment that occurs, or in personal life, but I'm doing personal coaching, success coaching and stuff like Tony Robbins, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a breakthrough that occurs, and
Turning point.
Your breakthrough was when you did the Ramadan session, right? That was the question I was thinking as you're presenting. There's always something that occurs, but think about, we're talking about strategy, right? Uniqueness, differentiation, and then sticking through it. That's an important piece.
Yeah, definitely. And it's especially what you said about finding out what you have to offer, right? Because I think that was one of the most difficult things for me, because it requires actually a lot of confidence in yourself to be able to say, okay, I'm interesting enough as I am. I don't have to try and be like someone else, because if I try to be like someone else, then my content will be like everyone else, right? So you need the confidence to stand out. And this is something that has been super difficult for me, because generally, this is primarily females saying this, but I will come across as sometimes a smartass or a little bit arrogant, but it is actually completely the opposite. I'm a very, very emotional guy, and I take criticism, I will take it very personally often. And it's, on the Ramadan video, I've had maybe 10,000, 12,000 comments. And it sometimes just takes one bad comment about saying, you're stupid, I don't like this video. And it will ruin my day, because I'm such a positive guy. I love making other people happy. I love smiling at other people. So I am a very emotional guy, and this will be hard for other content creators as well, I think, because you have to be able to expose yourself as you are and have confidence that you're good enough.
And if I could riff on that, this goes back to purpose. If you have a weak purpose, that purpose will, there's two things, right? When I'm doing coaching, there's two things that people, Al, I want to do this. You know, they come up with all these crazy ideas. And I ask them a question: for what purpose?
Yeah,
and
why? What's your why?
Right. And when they answer the question, as a coach, I need active listening. I need to listen. And what I'm listening for is it something that's pushing them, which isn't good, or is it something that's pulling them? Because if they're being pulled in the direction, then I have to do very little work. But if they're being pushed, then they have a greater opportunity to fail. So purpose, being clear of your purpose is very, very important.
That is so true. And since you are a coach, you probably also, you mentioned Tony Robbins, but also a great guy called Dean Graziosi. He has this called the seven whys, I believe it's called. It's basically about finding into what is really the reason of you doing this. Because the first thing that a lot of us would say it's because of money. I want to be a millionaire. Yes, wrong, right?
No.
But actually, when I did this challenge, I found out that one of the reasons why I was so insistent and so perseverant on becoming a success was to make my family proud. Because my father has always been a very bit of a tough guy, and I have always felt like I couldn't impress him enough. So deep down, that was the reason why I was doing this. And like you say, I think it's super important that you figure out why exactly do you want to do this or that, because there's a major difference between being pushed and basically being pulled, right? And that's what sometimes I forget, that it's the weekend. I forget that it's actually good to get more than 5 hours of sleep. And sometimes it's good to see other people instead of just making videos and editing, right? That is my pulling effect. And I also have to remember this with Mas Jun, who's sitting right over here, my editor. I have to remember that there is more to life than just work, right? Because my passion for my work is often so much that I forget that, okay, sometimes June also needs a day off, right? In order to remain sane, and so do I. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. By the way, we actually have two questions right here. These two questions are actually for both presenters. So the first question is, many people are interested to buy products being promoted by famous content creators. However, many people are not aware about issues about climate. Okay. If those content creators are assigned to promote the climate issues, will people respond to that issue the same way as the marketed product? Maybe these questions are more reliant toward Kristian. So maybe Kristian, you can start to answering these questions. I'll be asking Dr. Alberto first.
Sure, and it's a super interesting question, because this is also one of the things that I'm trying to focus on with my catchphrase, hashtag giving back to Indonesia, is that as a content creator, you have an influence usually on so many people's lives that I think it's important also to promote good causes, like, for example, climate change. Personally, I went to an orphanage in Tangerang, children's orphanage, and we raised $3,500 because I think it's kind of my responsibility. I can only speak for my own behalf, to promote, for example, climate change versus just doing ads. But if content creators are assigned to promote these issues, if people are going to be responding differently, it's a good question. I think it's easier to get attention from ads selling stuff versus climate change, because you have to sometimes be in the situation, be where the climate issue is happening, or if it's going to an orphanage, in order to fully understand the grasp of the situation. That's why I think it's a difficult thing to create content about. But I see more and more people doing it. My good friend and YouTuber, some of you may know him. His name is Ryan Mack, aka Bule Bolang. He, for example, helps promote an Indonesian business that takes trash out of the water and turns them into shoes. Personally, I also wear a cap here made outside of Tangerang, made of former waste products. So I think there's plenty also of opportunities to do a mix, promote apa namanya, promote climate issues together with that, because you can also sell some of these things that come from like waste. And yeah, I know, so I'm talking so much. But
Thank you,
I'm used to doing
Kristian.
this live, so.
Okay, hopefully that's answer Theo's questions here. But I also want to bring to Dr. Albert as well. I know, Dr. Albert, you are not content creators here. You mentioned that even your Facebook photos only have 4 likes from families. But
Yeah.
what's your take on this one?
I was telling them before, I get 4 likes on my Facebook page, and they're from my family, and I have a large family, so I'm not seen, and my wife blocked me from Facebook, so yeah, I'm not really there. But my take on the question is this: if, from a businessman's perspective, if you're looking to make money at something, you have to be cognizant. You have to understand the demographics of your client. Very, very important to know your clients. So this being said, do your clients, the clients that you think are clients, and the people that are buying your product or your service, because that's what it's all about, right? You either have a product or a service. And do your clients think like you think? So the demographically, the younger generation, like my generation, climate change is not that big of an issue. We don't really think of it as an issue. Your generation, and we're talking about Gen Z, millennials, soon to be the alphas, like my daughter, who's 3, right? You have to understand the demographics. So the short answer is yes, I think they would. And then you have to market, back to communication, you have to market to them and speak their language. So yes, the short answer is yes, understand your demographics. That means knowing your clients and your customers, and you cater everything, the communication process, to them. Like I don't have a social, footprint. So for me, that doesn't matter.
Thank you, Dr. Albert. That's actually a very, very good take on that. How you actually need to understand your target demographic, and then also how you can align, pretty much speak in their language, isn't it? Yeah. So okay, that's actually very interesting. All right. Actually, we have another questions as well from Ferdinand. What are your predictions for the future from both of your perspective in the digital space and business in general? I guess I'll start with Dr. Albert. How about digital space and business in general?
Well, I mean, I can tell you this, you could just look at what's happening globally. What's happening globally is everyone's moving to the digital world. That is the future. So if you're not, I'm not a big digital person. I'm not a big technologies person. Years ago I was, but that's the future. If you're not embracing technology, instant communications, right, hand phones, that type of stuff, it's just going to take off, and it's going to keep taking off. I mean, we're talking about the 4th, industrial revolution, the 5th industrial revolution. So for sure, digital space is going to be the place. Businesses need to embrace it. They need to hire people like you all, like Kristian, who's an influencer, to assist them, back to my point of the customer and the client, to assist them to communicate with you all. For an older person, I don't care what nationality they are. I'll take Bluebird taxis. The lady who runs, who I had an opportunity to meet a few years ago. I guarantee you, she needs to be talking to the millennials and the Gen Z folks, because she wants. I'll say this: the objective of business is to separate you from your money. That's it. That's the basic premise of what business is about: is how can I separate you from your money? And the best way to do it is through the communication process, and having people like Kristian and influencers is the future. How long in the future? I don't know, but Kristian outlined that it's going to change. It's going to change here and there due to technological shifts. But the digital space is the future for sure.
Right. Kristian, how about you? What do you think about digital space and business in channels? What are the predictions for the future on this too?
Yeah, long story short, I think like Albert says as well, it is the future and it's going to keep evolving. Now we're seeing that Facebook just changed their official name to Metaverse, right? Which is moving in that exact direction. We are suddenly seeing cryptocurrency blowing out of the water along with NFTs, right? I saw the most horrible post the other day on Instagram, a guy that proposed to his girlfriend with it was either a Bitcoin or an NFT. But I mean, and she was going to she wanted a ring, right? Obviously. But more and more is going into the digital space. And will I be a YouTuber in 15 years? I have no idea. So many things can change within that time frame. But I know that if I don't take action on it now, someone else will. I think you have to figure out what is interesting for you. And like Alan mentioned with Wayne Gretzky, right? Figure out where the puck is going and vision where it's going, right? And yeah, find your opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Kristian, for your answers as well. Oh, there is another question actually. This is specifically for Christians. Have you ever think of a collaboration with other foreign travel YouTuber in Indonesia, like Alexander White? Or have you ever think of focusing 100% on YouTube? And what are the keys to becoming consistent and passionate in all things that we do?
Wow, that's a good question. First, to answer regarding the collaboration with other YouTubers, this is a fantastic way to grow yourself on YouTube, both because you get exposure on other YouTube channels, but also because you actually go out and meet the other YouTubers in person. And I've made great friends already from some of the collabs. I have met Alexander White, for example. I have met Bagita and Mas Kevin, two Indonesians living in Copenhagen, and I've heard their story because they were YouTubers. So I will be doing more collabs in the future, but it also takes time. Like I mentioned, at the moment I have help, Mas Jun, who is helping me with the editing, so we can edit two people at the same time, but we still use typically 3-4 days editing one video, right? Because we are about quality over quantity. But I also see the question is, what is the key to being consistent? Because if there's one thing that's important on YouTube, it is to post regularly and to be consistent with it. And that is one of our key challenges, is that we're spending so much time on perfecting quality that it's sometimes difficult for us to keep up with the quantity. So one of the keys is honestly putting in a lot of hours. Planning ahead, like you see on the whiteboard here behind me, we have the days here: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We know on this day we're going to be shooting, on this day we're going to be editing. Then we put in a buffer in case there's a new opportunity. For example, last week I was invited to a dinner with the Danish embassy, and suddenly there was a new potential sponsor meeting. So we have to fit that in. So plan it. Because how is it, like, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think it's like that. So that's what I do in order to stay consistent and passionate. That's a good question. I keep focusing on achieving goals. It's basically my personality. I always want to do better, do more. But it's also my curse at the same time, because I'm rarely satisfied with anything I do. When people tell me, oh, it's such a good job, your edit is so good, the only thing I'm thinking is not really fair actually, but the only thing I'm thinking is, yeah, I can do better, I can do more, just wait and see. So I think the key to being passionate is find something that you really care about and figure out your why.
All right, thank you, Kristian. So again, hopefully, Jonathan, that answer your question. Yeah. So what are the keys to becoming consistent plan. Okay, what are the keys to become passionate? Do something that you love to do. Maybe this question also applies to Dr. Albert. Dr. Albert, what's your take in this? How to become consistent and passionate in the business that we do?
Well, underlying it, one of the things that I have in my background is I'm a certified, it's called neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And if you know Tony Robbins will never tell you this, but Tony Robbins' his base is neuro-linguistic programming. And in that, we talk about strategies, and there's strategies even in how we do things. And well, let me ask you a question, because as a person who speaks two other languages, a question about passion. Is there, I don't know Bahasa, is there one word for the word passion in Bahasa?
Passion in Bahasa. I don't know.
Oh.
And I raised that question because in Thai, there's not, English is very, very specific. We have a very large vocabulary, right, of words. So, and so when I talk to Thai people, it's very difficult because there's not one word that I can choose to say passion. So it's very difficult in not being a native English speaker. We have to also understand where the receiver is, you all as the receiver, of what does passion mean? Because there's different definitions of it.
Yeah, that's true.
So passion is something that, it's how do you define it, right? It's like, what is pornography? How do you define what pornography is? Passion would be like, well, what's the fire that drives you? And that goes back to understanding yourself and having that good values. But the base of it, really the base of all life. And I'm a behavioral scientist. That's what I do. I get in people's heads. What drives our behavior? The basic two things: belief and values. Those things will drive you, and that starts to determine what your passion is. Because if you don't believe you can do it, that's what you need to work on. We have limiting beliefs, right? We have all these things that tell us we can't do something, right? And we have to get over that. And that's I put my coaching hat on. That's why people hire me, is to help them overcome those obstacles in life. But passion is difficult, and it takes a lot of training. Just like you train yourself to lose weight, learn another language, you can train yourself to be passionate. It's not easy, but you can.
And if you don't mind me saying, Albert, I think it's really about your mindset as well. I mean, you have to constantly be able to encourage yourself. Like when you're getting this feeling like saying, I can't do it. Whenever I tell myself I can't do this, it's too hard, it's too much, there's always something on my shoulder sitting saying, you can do it. Show them, do it. You're going to thank yourself for it. If you don't have that inner voice that keeps reminding yourself to be consistent, go for it, fight for it, then it's honestly really, really tough. And you got to train yourself mentally to be able to do that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Albert, as well as Kristian. I just been reminded by the committee, we only have 5 minutes left. So we still got 2 questions. So first question, maybe we can do it fast on here. How's your suggestion from both of your perspective about bit money and also cryptocurrency as part of business? Is that actually good for business or not? Maybe I'll go to Dr. Albert for this one.
Well, first of all, go back to the pestle analysis, the P part. You got and the L part. Will your government allow you to trade in cryptocurrency? And the legal part of it, is it legal to trade in your host country? These are issues of, again, back to strategic planning. So in a lot of countries, it's not legal. I know in the United States, it's, we're a very free country. There's a lot of issues with cryptocurrency. Now, on the other side of it, there's been a lot of momentum, isn't there? Especially with what's this new coin with the dog?
A Dogecoin.
There's a name for it. Anyway, this is not my space, but again, back to strategic planning, P and L. Be careful, and it's very costly, but I think the future is moving in that direction. I think governments are going to have to do something to address this. And I think they're going to have to open it up.
And if you don't mind me quickly just throwing in a comment, because I love this kind of question. I have spent a ton of hours learning how to invest, learning from my mistakes. And guys, my best advice to you is see so many people in Indonesia now starting to do trading on their HP, right? With often money that they cannot afford to lose. And guys, trading, I only see people posting when they make money on the training. I never see they posting when they lose money, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to post that. So don't get confused. Trading is actually a really, really tough job. So don't get confused with that it's easy money. It's really not. If you do not know what you're doing, it's basically gambling. If you have any questions about investments, feel free to send me a DM as well. My best advice, index funds. I'll leave it at that because that's a long discussion.
Wait, Kristian, back to your Kristian's point about quotes. You know, Michael Jordan, you didn't see how many times he missed the hoop, right? When he's shooting the free throws. Nobody sees that. Nobody sees the effort. And everybody sees all these influencers. Everybody sees Kristian doing well. What you don't see is all that messy stuff behind the camera that he's not showing. Kristian, maybe that's the next episode, to show people behind the scenes, like Bear Grylls. Go behind the scenes and show them how messy it is. Show them life.
I love how you say messy, because usually my apartment is a complete mess. I have pencils and I have pots for a camera.
Oh, dude, look at my desk. I got sticky pads all over. I got all kinds of stuff, man.
Right. Okay, so the BTS behind the videographer. Maybe that's a good YouTube things that you can do, Kristian. All right, maybe the last one, because time is up. I'll be called by the committee. Yeah. I guess the last one is how can we communicate our values to our customer? Transferring our ideas, or are there or are there anything else we unknowingly need to consider? I guess I'll go to Kristian, because this is a communication part, Kristian.
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second. What was the question?
How do we can communicate our values to our customers perfectly, transferring our ideas to be understood by the customer exactly same as we intended it to do? Or are there anything else we unknowingly need to consider?
That's a good question, because it relates to the way that you communicate, right?
That's true.
That you share your message. And I think it's a lot about attitude as well. The reason why I so often are able to make new friends, make new connections, make a sale, for example, like day before yesterday when I was out for a sponsor meeting, is your attitude, your body language. I mean, the way that you present yourself. If you have a business proposal for a customer and you don't present it with like your own excitement about it, you know, eye contact, which tone are you speaking at? Are you sitting like this when you're presenting, or are you standing like this because you are so excited? It takes training in communication, and I would be surprised if this wasn't something that Albert were already mentoring on. What would you say to that, Albert?
I would first of all define what value is. That's the first thing. Understand we're speaking the same language. So value is what is important to you. It may not be important to someone else. And this is where people miscommunicate. Just because it's important to you, it may not be important to your customer or your client or internally. So define it first. What's important to you? How do you do it? Communicate it. You got to live it. Back to leadership. Walk the walk, talk the talk. If we're talking about a company, so when I'm doing consulting work in a company, and we're talking about, so you have personal values and organizational values. You got to get congruency. You got to be in alignment. And then everybody's got to speak from the same hymnal. You got to, as you read from the hymnal, you got to speak the same language. And what I tell people is, and I've experienced it when I used to work in offshore oil rigs. I worked for Chevron. And Chevron, the organizational culture, it's a different thing, very important topic. Organizational culture is about safety. And let me tell you, they walk the walk. Every meeting at Chevron starts with a safety discussion. And that's how you inculcate values into everything you do. Every discussion, every meeting, everything you do has to be in concert with your values. But number one, you got to know what is values, and then ask yourself, what are my top 3 or my top 5 values? That's the first thing I do with clients. I ask them the question, let's talk about your values and your beliefs. And we start to do what we call values elicitation. What is important to you? And it'd be funny. Just Kristian's point, maybe somebody's shy. So I'll give you a very quick, I know you got to go, Alan. I'll give you a very quick point. Someone comes to me, I want to be a coach. Great, that's wonderful. So I do values elicitation. I want to help people. I want to make people clarity. I want to do this. So we get down to value number 8. and they have yet to tell me about they want to make money. So I ask them the question, you going to do this for free? Are you going to be a charity worker to be a coach? Well, no, I want to make money. Well, why is money like number 9 on your list? So then I have to use techniques, specific techniques to raise this value level up to at least value number 3 for them, because they feel ashamed to take money from someone. And that's an issue with people. It's literally in their heads. They feel bad from taking money for a service. So that's my take.
Fantastic. I guess that will wrap up our interesting discussion with Dr. Albert and Kristian. Thank you very much then again for both speakers for today's joining us in this webinar. I will encourage all the participants maybe to give us a virtual applause for both Dr. Albert as well as Kristian as well. Right.
Do you mind if we take a quick picture?
Yes, of course. Don't worry. We got the committee for that.
Okay.
So then again, I'll return it back to MC, to Angela, and committee as well to lead for the photo session. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alan, for leading this seminar. Thank you also to Dr. Albert and Mr. Kristian for your great sharing. Now, let's do a photo session before we move on to the next part. To Multimedia Division, the time is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Josephine from the Multimedia Division. So right now we're gonna do the photo session. So I really hope that you guys will turn on your camera, take your best poses, and put your best smile. Okay, so hold on your smile, please. We're gonna start from slide 1. Okay.
Also, you're taking a picture from each slide.
Yes.
Okay.
Several slides here. 1, 2. Okay, wait. 1, 2. Second slide. 1, 2. Third slide. 1, 2. Wait. Let me see again. Okay. There are a lot of slides, so please hold on your smile.
It's like when you want to take a picture with your family, right? You always have to hold the poster on. Yeah.
The teeth are getting dry.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay, so the photo session is finished. Thank you for your cooperation. I'm giving back to the MC. Thank you.
Sama-sama, ya.
And therefore, we have reached the very end of today's accounting talk. We hope that you enjoyed today's talk and discussion. We look forward to seeing you at the next year event. But before we close the webinar, let us pray. Dear Jesus, Father in heaven, we thank you for the day you have given to us. Thank you for the chance to listen to this webinar. We can gather here to listen to Dr. Albert and Mr. Kristian's wonderful story. And may the lesson be useful for us for the day to come. Thank you, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And once again, I want to thank our great moderator for leading this webinar and our great speaker for today's talk. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. Once you leave today's webinar, don't forget to do the registration out and evaluation form, as the link has already been posted in the Zoom chat box. Or you can scan the barcode on your screen. Thank you and God bless you.
Terima kasih semua. Sukses selalu ya.
I knew that it was time to tell you how I feel. So I made a move, I took your hand. My heart was beating loud like I've never felt before. You smiling at me like you wanted more. I think you're the one I've never seen before. I want you to know I love you the most. I'll always be there right by your side. 'Cause baby, you're always in my mind. Just give me your forever. I want you to know that you'll be the one, and I'll be the guy you'll be on his name. 1973. I was so jealous seeing you with him. Oh baby, I know that I can treat you better back in those nights. Oh, you wouldn't cry from his stupid lies. Oh baby, I was still watching, wishing you to be mine. I want you to know I love you the most. I'll always be there right by your side. 'Cause baby, you're always in my mind. Just give me forever.
Once you leave today's webinar, don't forget to do the registration out and evaluation form, as the link has already been posted in the Zoom chat box, or you can scan the barcode on your screen. Thank you and God bless you.
Remember, I was on the aisle waiting for you, babe. Saw you in your gown, I was crying all my tears. I told myself that you are the one. You are the one. I want you to know I love you the most. I'll always be there right by your side. 'Cause baby, you're always in my mind. Just give me forever. I want you to know that you'll be the one, and I'll be the guy you'll be on his knees to say I love you, and I need you, and say I die for you. Just give me your forever. Just give me your forever. Just give me your forever. Here's to all the late night drunk phone calls that you picked up. Here's to all the bad decisions that you did.